Simplified social power. Way back when I was in high school, a bunch of my buddies and I and a couple of their parents drove down to Mexico. We were going down to watch some long motorcycle race. We had about 6 cars in total. Right before we crossed the border, we all pulled into a parking lot. One of the parents came over to my window I was driving and asked me if I'd ever driven in Mexico. I shook my head. He said, "The rules are simple. Don't hit anybody and don't let anybody hit you." Once I was shopping for a crock pot cookbook. I loved the idea of a crock pot or a slow cooker. Dump a bunch of stuff in the morning, flip it on, and Bob's your uncle. Come home after work, and not only does your place smell fantastic, but dinner's ready. However, many crock pot recipes are not so simple. It requires you do a bunch of stuff before you put everything in the crock pot. Whenever I see these recipes, I think, dude, if I was willing to do all that other stuff, I wouldn't be using a crock pot. Our brains are capable of complex thinking. Otherwise, we never would have invented all the stuff we have. But at the same time, we prefer simple strategies. Unless you really like the cooking part and not the eating part like me, going through a ton of steps only increases the chances of error. I don't remember how many times I've watched a YouTube recipe thinking I'd remember it only to mess it up later. Forgetting a simple step that changes everything. Talking to humans is a very, very complex process. One of those things you never really feel like you've got handled. For example, back when I sold cars, they had a pretty good system set up, a continuous learning program. You talked to the customer until they bailed. Then you'd remember the hardest objection. Then every morning we'd get together and go over all those previous objections. So long as you were willing to put in the time and get rejected enough by the customers, you could eventually start to earn some money. Same goes with social conversations. So long as you stay in the game, eventually you'll get some natural game going. The problem is this takes time. This takes a lot of exposure, a lot of uncomfortable exposure. This is hard for most normal people. But there is a kind of shortcut. The one thing you can build that doesn't require a ton of rejection. Everybody has a measurement of this one personality trait. Below a certain point, you'll always be chasing things. Above a certain point, things will be chasing you. What things? The good things. Money, romance, sex, love, friendship, you name it. To learn more, visit mindpersuasion.com/social-dominance.